Simple fact book MIA, huh? I cleaned up 2 days ago, man. I don't know where I put the book. Oh well. What's going on, Kronos, Fire Goes, Leven? How you all doing? Okay. Oh, there we go. Oh, did I not go live? I'm live. Let's plug the Discord thing. Just getting this in. Getting into the groove. All right. Please work first try so I don't have to do this 6 times. Oh, beautiful. You'll love to see it. What? Going on? Ah! Yeah. Alright, here we go. Do adventure mode. What the? Oh, we have a serious cable disaster. There we go. Okay, here we go. We're just loading up the game. All right. We're pretty much ready to just get into attempts, to be honest with you. I figure this isn't the greatest. What's the soft reset combo? Is it that? Just go like that. Try one more time. You got it? Alright, there we go. We're in there. We're in. What am I naming the Kyogre once I get it? I actually don't know. I actually don't super know. Open the volume mixer here really quick. Oh, strange. Oh, the line in is the line in not plugged in? Oh, weird. Where's the audio coming from then? Okay, well, whatever. We're gonna leave regular music on. So how's everyone doing today? This late morning. I don't know how long I'm gonna stream for. I just wanted to get something out here. The painting actually isn't doing anything. What is doing it is I'm playing on Pokemon Box, Ruby and Sapphire. I can actually show you. I have 2 copies of it. I have one in Japanese for this copy of Sapphire, and then I have one in English. Another one. So this video game, Pokemon Box Ruby and Sapphire, I'm not actually playing on a Game Boy player. I'm playing on that game. This game has a an emulator in it, basically. You can play Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire only, not Emerald and not Fire and Light Green. Only Ruby and Sapphire on your TV using Pokemon Box. And the way it works is the box has a built-in emulator and a built-in ROM of Ruby and of Sapphire. What you do is you use the Game Boy to GameCube link cable to connect it, to connect your Game Boy to the GameCube, and then it sends your save file over this cable into Pokemon Box Ruby and Sapphire, and you can play the game there. Now, as you've ever seen in some of my videos, As you've seen in some of my videos before, whenever I'm talking about using an emulator, which I don't do it often, but if I'm ever talking, like for my e-reader stuff, I tend to talk about the emulators a little bit more. I always say, use MGBA, or don't use Visual Boy Advance. And that's because Visual Boy Advance is very outdated and old and crappy, okay? And this emulator is also old and outdated and like crappy's wrong, like the I don't know, crappy's like a loaded word in the sense of like I'm insulting developers who did something that I'm not even capable of, right? What I'm trying to say is it's an inaccurate emulator when it comes to very technical details of the GBA. I would say 99.999% of players won't notice any issues while playing on Pokemon Box, Ruby, and Sapphire. You won't notice anything, right? But what you will notice from time to time, if you're a RNG manipulator, is you'll get spreads that don't normally show up at the standard method 1 spreads that you would expect to happen. Sometimes you'll get method 4 spreads. Method 4 spreads are very unique because they generate Pokemon in a way that typically doesn't happen in these games, right? They're generated because of an inaccuracy in the emulator where the basically like processor cycles, it takes slightly longer or slightly less to do things, and you're more likely to have the game be interrupted while it's generating a Pokemon. So the IVs are generated differently than normal, is what will happen on Box, Ruby, and Sapphire. In fact, that's just occurred to me to message Shao about this. Hey, shit. I'm actually going to message Shao about this right now. Stadium also uses an emulator. That's why you can fast forward in the Stadium games. They have like Dodrio modes or whatever. Unfortunate that it is unfortunate that there's no fast forward in this one. Wouldn't it have been awesome if this if Box RS had fast forward mode? You're still holding a painting that you can buy for $5? Don't understand the statement, but that's okay, buddy. How are you doing, Animator and Infinite Omniverse, if I haven't said it? You can buy instead of going to the jungle? What up, Big A? I think Stadium loads the ROM from the cartridge, which is only compatible with the Pokemon games. I did hear someone online managed to trick the game into loading one of the Wario Land games. I have seen a video of someone loading... Wario Land using red and blue. Yeah, I have seen that before. I think it was Wario Land 2 or 3 they were doing, right? Yeah, Box RS, I believe Box RS has the ROM built into the cartridge, or into the disc. I don't think it's upload, because this cable is slow. It would take quite a while to upload the ROM file, I think. It is not a quick method of data transfer. If you've ever used it to write a save or extract a save, it's not particularly quick. Or extract a ROM or anything like that. I love the Wario Land games. I mean, I haven't really played Wario Land 1, to be honest with you, but Wario Land 2, 3, and 4 are really awesome. I really, really enjoy Wario Land 2, 3, and 4. They're some of my favorite games ever made. I haven't played them in a long time, but I 100%ed Wario Land 2 for the first time in like 2018 or 2019. It was when I first moved into my apartment with my now wife. This is A. Alright, Dom-chan. Is real or custom hunt. This is not one of my events. Actually, my events, for the most part, do not work on BoxRS. Because BoxRS is such an inaccurate emulator. They actually don't work on it. I think I made some of them work on it. No, it's not guaranteed method 4. We don't want to use a repel. So what I'm doing is using the black flute to reduce the rate of encounter. Oh, I went the wrong way. I'm trying to reduce the rate of encounters, basically. And you have to do that every time you enter a room. So you have to go in here. Use the black flute. Go through. Do it again. I'm gonna use flash here. I don't you don't need to use flash, actually. But I'm not good enough at navigating the cave. But basically what I'm doing is, instead of using repels, I am minimizing the game's encounter rate. It's to the lowest level. So this cave has an encounter rate of 4, and I divide it all the way down to 1. By using Stench, the Black Flute. Hey, what's good, Lincoln? Oops. Would Repel not work? No, Repel does not work the same way as encounter rate lowering functions. Kronos. So what is happening here is, basically, every time you step over a tile, the game does a check to see, hey, is an encounter going to happen right now? And every time the game says, oh, is there an encounter? Even if there's no encounter, or, excuse me, if there is an encounter, the game moves the RNG forward to generate a Pokemon, right? Now, if you have a repel on, the game doesn't prevent the Pokemon from being generated. The game just stops the battle with it from happening. So, if I have a repel on and I run across all of these tiles in the cave where there's wild Pokemon, I will generate 4 to 8 encounters or something like that. And every time one of those encounters happens, the PRNG moves like 4 advances forward, right? And if that happens, the RNG moves. So you say, okay, what's the big deal? The big deal is that I'm not going to get the exact same amount of RNG advances from stepping over these tiles. I'm not going to get the same amount every single time, right? It's just not going to happen, okay? But when the game says, no, there is no encounter, there is no RNG advances, okay? And so, because of that, what we want to do is minimize the rate of encounter so that when we run through the cave without a repel on, the game never even generates one single encounter at all. It will never happen, okay? And so we don't even need a repel. I would say my rate of getting an encounter is like 20 to 30%, just anecdotally, but what I'm doing is minimizing the encounter rate. You can't actually see it. I can show you my party. I can show you my party beforehand, but basically what I've got here is I've got a lead Pokemon who is a Muck, and it has a Stench tag. Or no, it has the ability Stench, and it is the Cleanse tag item. Both of these lower the encounter rate. And then I'm using the Black Flute in every single room, which also lowers the encounter rate for those rooms. You actually can lower the encounter rate further by being on your bike, but I don't need to, because if I was on the bike, that puts it... The minimum for encounter rate, I believe, is 1. I believe 1 is the minimum. And so you can't get it below 1. I don't think you can get it below 1. So you don't need to be on the bike. Which is good, because being on the bike would be kind of annoying. Whoa, you stream? Yeah, I haven't been doing so well mentally, so I have been not streaming doing anything very much, to be honest. I've been having a very hard time. But I broke the cycle today. I'm not going to be streaming tomorrow, but I should be back on the horse Tuesday with some more streams. Hey, Riley, how are you doing? You might even be getting some night streams. I might do some night streams after my wife goes to bed for members only, where I do some programming. I'm really happy that I broke the cycle today. I didn't think I could do it. There will be more bottle caps coming. Actually, I have a backlog of about 5 no bottle caps videos to upload. I just haven't done it. Hey, Blissy, I was wondering if do you know if the MGBA can pull the .sav of the e-reader with the scanned card? I've been looking every... What do you mean? I don't know what your... MGBA is an emulator, so it can't extract a save for you. You need some external software to extract a save. I understood I was in the cycle. Like, I understood where I was, but I just couldn't get myself to do it. You know what I mean, Crass? That's all right. I just did this because we have it set up. We might do a funny Togetic stream or Togepi stream later in the week. Or later next week. Hopefully the singular break today is all I'm going to need in order to continue onward. I'll probably be streaming Tuesday. Dang it. All right, let's see where we're at. Tender Expletive. Nice to see Blissy's here getting that cracked Kyogre. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Alright, what do we got here? I believe that's Rash. 196. So right now I'm calculating the Kyogre's stats to see where we landed. Invalid input. Oh, right, I didn't put the level in. Punk. Need to put level 45. Calculate. Alright. Hey, we got nothing. Method 4. Seed. Wow, we were really close. What the heck? We were 2 seeds early, 1 advance late. We're already actually pretty close. I'm not going to do an adjustment. This is the thing that sucks about this manip. Because the wait is so long that, like, I don't know if that I want to do an adjustment right now. We're going to go for it. We're going to go for no adjustment. And if I was late on the next time, if I'm late on the next time, then I will do an adjustment. So I'll show you my party really quick. So you can see the setup that I've got here is very strange. Why am I doing it this way? What is going on, right? Well, what I've got here is a muck that is faint. Everyone in my part. So let's break it down. First of all, why am I in the Lily Cove contest hall, right? What's going on in the Lily Cove contest hall? This is the painting that I'm using, but you can actually use any painting in the entire game. And the paintings in the other contests halls, in Ruby and Sapphire, a couple of towns have contest halls. In Emerald, it's only Lily Cove. But in Ruby and Sapphire, you can go to Fall Arbor, you can go to Verdant Turf, Lily Cove, and there's at least one more. It's Slateport, I believe. And those all have paintings of Pokemon by default. They don't have to be yours. They're the previous contest winner, right? And so you could use those. But the problem is those contest halls have non-playable characters in them that can move around randomly and cause extra RNG advances, which will make the manip less consistent, right? So here, there's no NPCs. But the problem is the floor below me does have some NPCs. So there's actually no way out of this place. So that's where my unique party comes in. I've got my Swampert here at 1 health, and it's poisoned. And the rest of my party is fainted, except for the egg, of course. So if I take one single step, I will white out, and then I will teleport to the last Poke Center that I healed at, which is, it's not, oh lord. I can't think of the name of the city. It's really funny. How much have I played this game? Sutopolis. So the last place that I healed at is Sutopolis, which is where the Cave of Origin is for Kyogre. And that town also happens to have no NPCs in it while the weather event is happening, because everyone is blockaded indoors. And so then when I end up there, I then can just run to the Cave of Origin without any NPC interference. In addition to that, the lead of my party is this Muck here. Muck has Stench, which reduces the encounter rate as its ability. There are a few out-of-battle abilities that actually work in Ruby and Sapphire. Stench is one of them. Stench and Illuminate work. Pickup works without a battle, technically. Stuff like that, right? And so the Cleanse Tag held item also reduces the rate of encounters. And then I have the Black Flute item. I have Roselia here so that I can use Flash. And then I have a Wingull so that I could fly out of Sutopolis when I'm done with this whole thing. In addition to that, I have this egg here. The egg is actually for hatching in Kyogre's room. Typically, when you're doing method 4, playing music actually helps, whether or music playing in the background helps the game have method 4 happen. But that room actually has no background music at all. But there is a glitch where if you hatch an egg in that room where there is no music, the egg music continues until the map is reset somehow, either by going into your menu or getting into a wild battle. And so that's what this egg here is for. This egg is made to hatch slightly after I get into that room. I don't really remember how many steps are at it. So it's a whole complicated, very annoying setup that I've done here. And so now we wait, and we'll put the music back on. I hope that was a sufficient explanation. This is also I could get a method 4 Kyogre. Yeah, Stench didn't get an in-battle effect for quite some time. I'm glad they are adding in-battle effects to otherwise useless abilities. Like, for example, I think the ability let me look up the ability. The ability Runaway. It always lets you run from a battle, right? I think that Runaway should let you switch out of trapping moves if you have it. So, a Pokemon, like, okay, listen, there's not a lot of, Pokemon that have Runaway, but, like, imagine if, Apom or Ambipom had Runaway, and you could use it to switch out of arena traps. Yeah, stuff like that. I think that would be an interesting way to do it. You could give a Steel type Runaway. That'd be interesting. I think something to help with Shadow Tag, which I think kind of plagues VGC. Let me look up abilities with no competitive use. Ball Fetch. What does Ball Fetch even do? Ball Fetch. Because let's come up with like things that these abilities can do. Any time after the first Pokeball is thrown, it fails to catch a Pokemon. A Pokemon with Ball Fetch is on the field and not holding another item. It will pick up the same type as the one it's thrown. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Honey Gather. That I know what that one does. Honey Gather. This Pokemon may gather honey from something. Okay. Illuminate, I think, increases wild battles, right? Okay. Illuminate is an easy one, I think. Illuminate, what you can do is something with accuracy. You can either just make the Pokemon blanket immune to accuracy lowering moves like Big Pecs. That's interesting. Or what I think is a better ability is, hold on. What I think would be more interesting is when sent out on the field, it lowers when sent out on the field, Illuminate lowers the evasion of all opposing Pokemon. I think that's what it should do. Oh, does it have one in Gen 9? I think the thing that I was looking at was Gen 8 list. No, Illuminate shouldn't be... I'm not pro evasion. Super sweet. Yeah, that's it's the ability not Hydrap. Is it Hydrapple has that ability, or is it the other one? Is it the lower stage? I think you could also make it so that Pokemon specifically has higher accuracy than normal, right? You could make it so if you don't want to do Super Sweet Syrup, you can make it a Pokemon that gets a bunch of inaccurate moves like Hydro Pump and Leaf Storm or whatever. And what happens is it specifically has higher accuracy than normal thanks to Illuminate. But I think you could have it sends out and it goes, this Pokemon... Yeah, that was my first idea for it, but I think that's just like a boring solution if that makes sense. Because you know, those are allowed in VGC. But even in VGC, they're kind of cheese tactics. People don't use them too much. There's been strategies with Chansey and Blisy before doing it, but otherwise, and then they're banned in Smogon. So I don't think it's an interesting way to use an ability, right? I personally, I don't think so anyway. I'll look at the list of abilities that say no competitive use for Gen 9 to double check my work after this Meryl hatches. Yeah, I'm not suggesting to remove any of these Pokemon's out-of-battle effects. Oop, I was supposed to wait for 308. Alright, what are we doing here? Okay, now we wait. Put the music back. So let's see. No. Did they... What? Oh, Ball Fetch isn't in Scarlet and Violet, right? It seems. Wait, Scarlet and Violet doesn't have a single ability with no competitive use. Is Runaway not in Scarlet and Violet? What? Huh? Hold on. EV Smogon. I think it might just not be in Smogon's ability decks. No. It's in Scarlet and Violet. I think it's just not in the ability decks for Smogon. I think that's what it is. Okay, so Runaway is in. Okay, let's see. Ball Fetch. Okay, Ball Fetch might just not be in it. Oh, this says SM. Hold on, wait. Ball Fetch. Okay, it's not in that game. Honey Gather has no competitive use as well. Okay, so there's 3 abilities right now, I think, with no competitive use. It's Ball Fetch, Honey Gather, and Runaway. Runaway, obvious. I think my solution is great. It makes you immune to trapping moves. They did that with ghosts types already, but I think having it on an ability is fine, personally. Okay. So what can Ball Fetch do? Ball Fetch is very... Oh, what is Pickup? Is Pickup in the game? Oh, they did... Okay, so you can pick up... It does have an out-of-a-battle ability now. Oh, it's had one for a long time. Wow, Pickup's had an out-of-battle effect since Black and White. I didn't even know this. This is a great ability now. Or not great, it's a interesting ability. Okay, what could Ball Fetch possibly do? What if Ball Fetch... Okay, I have 2 ideas for Ball Fetch. You guys let me know what you think. There's 2 ideas I have. 1, ball-based items stop working. So, like, Iron Ball and, like, Toxic Orb, Burn Orb, any orb item, any ball item, the Pokemon either steals them or it just prevents them from functioning as items. So it would be like on the entire field. So let's say you had a Yamper and a another Pokemon, like a Metagross, and the Metagross is holding an Iron Ball. You send them both out together. The Yamper has Ball Fetch. The Iron Ball doesn't do anything. But you can still fling it or whatever, but it doesn't slow any Pokemon down. Alternatively, the Pokemon could be either healed by or immune to ball-based moves similar to Bulletproof. So you, like, get healed from Shadow Ball, or you could reflect Shadow Ball. Like, you send it in on Shadow Ball and it reflects it back, or something like that. You know what I mean? I think both of those are interesting options, if you ask me. I don't think it should do both of those things, Ryger, personally. But it could do one. Now, Honey Gather, I'm having a hard time thinking of an in-battle use for. What would Honey Gather do? I'm thinking of a unique way. It's hardy, I think. I'm thinking of a unique way. Let's Honey Gather, right? So I'm thinking, what if it's a unique way to target and defeat grass Pokemon? We were... What? Are we one advance late? Are you serious? We were on seed one advance late. On and method 4. This would have been the Kyogre if I was one advance early. No, we're in. We're close. So I'm thinking for, like, Honey Gather would maybe be something like... I'm thinking, like, a specific way to target... target grass Pokemon. I don't know, maybe like super effective moves deal 2x to grass Pokemon. I don't love that. Oh, interesting. You make it have superior leftovers. That's interesting. So honey functions as leftovers, but twice the effectiveness for Pokemon with Honey Gather. That's a pretty good ability, actually, I think. It's like Toxic Heal, right? You do Toxic Heal, but for honey. That might be the best one. That might be the best one that we've had so far. I was thinking... It gives up the item slot to balance it out. I don't think it's actually better that way. For VGC specifically. What do you mean this would allow triple leftovers? You're talking about in VGC, where you have Black Sludge leftovers plus honey. Yeah, but all the Pokemon with Honey Gather suck ass, don't they? It's literally Ribombee and Combee. And Teddy Ursa. So the only fully evolved Pokemon that gets Honey Gather is Ribombee. Wants a different ability. I think it's fine to allow triple leftovers. You just have a stall team. It's fine. I was also thinking you could have some interesting mechanic where you have like some ramp up mechanic where the Pokemon, every time it does damage, it will harvest honey. And after it harvests honey 5 times or something like that, it gets like a huge buff. Do you understand? Like I'm saying, it's like you use like a move, it hits the Pokemon, and then that causes it to gather honey. Maybe, and then after you do it 5 times, you have like a Pokemon that gets a huge buff from all the honey it gathered. But it has to stay on the field. Sort of like an inverse of Slow Start, where Slow Start is you stalling for 5 turns. Honey Gather is you finding a way to deal damage 5 times or something like that. Does that make sense? I think that could be an interesting mechanic. Ooh, Honey Gather functions like stockpile. That's interesting. Hypothetically, would Regigigas with Guts or Huge Power be more broken? Huge Power is way better because it doesn't require a condition to happen, right? And the buff that Huge Power gives is like way bigger than Guts. Guts is a 50% power increase. And in order to take advantage of it, two of the ways you could take advantage of it damage you every single turn. And if you want to activate it yourself, you give up your item slot. Whereas, and there are advantages to that, right? You get a sleep absorber that way, and a few other things. But Huge Power lets you have Huge Power lets you have an item. And it's significantly more than a 50% increase of your stat. I don't know if you could ever like I don't know. Regigigas with a Huge Power would be very broken. I'd reference your channel in a game I'm making, but I want to be sued by Nintendo, and I don't want to be forced. Wait. Hold on. My brain didn't work when I read your comment. I would reference your channel in a game that I'm making, but I don't want to be sued by Nintendo and be forced to pay $120 for DLC with the Pokemon named Big Bingus, who has 250 in all stats. Why would Nintendo sue you for referencing my YouTube channel in a video game that you're making? I'm going to your YouTube channel. You see Gmod videos. You don't have like a developer blog? I like those type of videos. I don't think Nintendo would sue you for referencing my channel. It has nothing to do with them. I'm a Blizzard. My name is not spelled like the Pokemon, so you understand. My name is spelled... You didn't even spell my name right. But B-L-I-S-Y is not how the Pokemon's name is spelled. I think it'd be fine. I mean, to be clear, I think that if they're going, like, they, like, don't sue YouTube channels who have millions of views with, like, Nintendo in their name and stuff like that. Like, there are people who have, like, their name is, like, a Pokemon, and Nintendo doesn't sue them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't really think that you are at risk of being sued. What up, Energy Man? How you doing? What does the flute do? The flute lowers the rate of encounter. I don't remember the value. Might be 50%, but I think it might divide the rate of encounter in half. I can't recall what the specific value is. I've looked it up in Pret before. Okay. I don't know who Retro Game Core is. The thing about Pokemon is Pokemon seems to be handled slightly differently to some degree than... Because you got to remember, Pokemon is not exclusively a Nintendo franchise, right? Nintendo only owns 1/3 of the company, right? Game Freak owns 1/3, Nintendo owns 1/3, and Creatures Inc. owns 1/3 of the Pokemon IP, right? And so it is not the same. So you can see this by usually Pokemon mods are not the ones taken out. Like, for example, Point Crow, the YouTuber and streamer, got a bunch of videos taken down because he was posting multiplayer Breath of the Wild mods that he paid someone to develop. And those videos all got taken down. He got, like, Nintendo was very mad at him for this, right? Several weeks later, this is literally, I think, a month or two later, he got a sponsorship from Pokemon while still having Pokemon ROM hacks and fan games on his channel. So, I think Pokemon seems to be treated slightly differently than other properties from Nintendo. But a fun thing that we have with copyright, I get why it's a thing, though. Yeah, I only get it a little. Yeah, usually the general consensus seems to be... as long as you don't get too much publicity from your fan game, you'll be fine. What does the Meryl hatch do? Yeah, it's pretty simple. Usually this room has no music in it at all. But if I hatch an egg in this room, the egg hatch music continues. You can hear it right now. You hear it? So, and then the music playing helps me get method 4, which is what I'm looking for. And, you know, copyright insofar as games is actually very interesting. I don't really know how it works for video games, but for traditional board games and, like, tabletop games, actually one of the more interesting things about copyright for those things is that they aren't, like... for example, for Dungeons and Dragons, the gameplay itself is actually not copyrighted. The rules aren't copyrighted. What is copyrighted is specifically the phrasing of the rules and the presentation of the rules in their book. So I can make a game that's like advantage is rolling 2 dice or 2 die and keeping the highest, and disadvantage is rolling 2 die and keeping the lowest. I can write that in a game that like a tabletop game that I develop, and that's actually legal for me to do as long as I'm not phrasing it the same way that Wizards of the Coast phrased it in their book. And so it allows it forcibly and intentionally allows you to take other IP and morph it into something that you want for creative purposes, which I think is great. I think that's something that should be for it. So, like, for me, Nintendo should never be allowed to have a patent on throwing a Pokeball and having it capture it and store a creature and having a storage system for all the creatures, right? I don't think they should be allowed to have that. Like, I think they should be able to protect a Pokeball and maybe even the physical design of the Pokeball. But, like, having different storage techniques for them, I think that's a complete horseshit, right? No, I think even Pal World's balls should be considered distinct enough from what a Pokeball is. I think Pal Spheres are literally distinct enough from a Pokeball. I doubt Nintendo wins that case, to be honest with you. Yeah, a lot of the IP laws in Japan are very weird. They're, like, very loose with some things, but they're very not loose with other things. Like, for comics, you can basically always make a fan comic and draw it, publish it, and sell it. In Japan. Tasty. Like, you could just write and sell Naruto fan manga if you wanted to. 147, 96, 81, 141, 137, not 131. We were on seed 2 advances early. All right, we were on seed 2 times consecutively, so we're doing pretty good. That was method 1, though. Yo, what's good, Beatus? By the way, if you all are having a good time, please consider hitting the like button. It helps me out and it's free. And if you want to continue to help out, you could consider becoming a channel member. That would also help me out. It only costs $2 a month. And you get access to a bunch of emotes and videos early and other stuff like that if you're interested. Special chat in my Discord. Videos early, stuff like that. Oh. I think a little bit of my coffee went up my nose. Unfortunate. There's no reason for it being on Japanese Ruby and Sapphire. This is just the game I had. I wanted... Sorry, there is technically a reason for it being on Japanese Sapphire, and it's because I don't own Sapphire in English. I wanted a Kyogre, and you can only do Method 4 on Ruby or Sapphire. Ruby is... I have in English, Sapphire I have in Japanese. That's it. My ex-girlfriend, when we broke up, she had my Sapphire, and I never got it back from her. Even after we reconciled several years later after breaking up, she told me she sold all her Pokemon games, and she sold my original Sapphire thinking that it was her game. So I do not have my original Sapphire anymore. The punishment is death. No, she's a nice person. And she was a huge Pokemon fan, so she had tons of games from her and her brother going up, so she just didn't remember. And I really hated her when we broke up, so I didn't even attempt to contact her about anything at the time. And so it was like literally like 3 years later or something like that. I accepted her apologies and such. And I was like, oh, I think I left my Sapphire with you. Do you have it? And she's like, no, I moved all the Pokemon up to my main game and sold the rest of my games because I just don't want to have 100 consoles and stuff. And I was like, fair. But then, and then at the time, my Japanese Sapphire, I think I bought it on Amazon, used Amazon, for $13. I think I bought this for. So. I have 3 emeralds. I have 2 in English and 1 in Japanese. I actually have a decent collection of Japanese GBA games. I have Japanese Emerald. I have Japanese Emerald. I have Japanese Leaf Green. I have Metroid Fusion in Japanese as well. Playing Gale of Darkness for the first time as a teenager, I'm amazed at the invisible walls. Gale of Darkness stinks. They're so cheap. My Japanese Sapphire was complete in box. I have it right here. I can. But not kanji, so. Emerald. Sapphire. Each of these was like $13 to $14. They come with all of the manuals and stuff. Like, it even has, like, this insert. It's crazy. The Emerald box is actually really nice for how old it is. The Sapphire box is in a little bit of rougher shape. But it still has all the inserts and things like that. The best box that I have is my wife has her childhood Fire Red from growing up. It's not in the best shape, but it's a full, complete box with everything in it. And I don't know what Emerald Legacy is. Whoa, the hell? I just flew out of there. Oh, that's my Pokewalker. Heck. Emerald Legacy. What is Emerald Legacy? Let's see, what is this? Quality of life features and rebalancing. I don't like these types of... I just do not like these types of ROM hacks. I don't know what it is about me that I don't like these things. But first of all, I think Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald are pretty good games already. I actually think they're like good video games already. I have put so many hours into Gen 3. I don't even know how many. I put so much of my time into Gen 3, and I'm still doing it. Like, I like it. I like the RNG minigame. I like just playing through the game. I like battling versus other people. I love them. But, like, I think Emerald is good enough. And I'm much more interested in taking a game that I quite like and analyzing its faults, its positive qualities, stuff like that. Like, I really like doing that, taking the game as it is and looking at it as it is. I'm not interested in, like, some... And I think the reason I'm like this it's because I'm only really like this with Pokemon specifically, and I think the main reason for that is the continuity of the games, where all the Pokemon can always be sent to other games, and you can transfer them all the way up into modern times. Like, I think that's a big key factor in why I'm not super interested in hacks like this, because I like that connective experience, and that was one of the goals with my e-reader cards, and that's why I went so hard to make these e-reader cards legal, was because it doesn't take away from the experience. It doesn't take away from the experience where, you know, you can't transfer them up and stuff like that, right? I mean, I don't think Pokemon usually does a very good job with its remakes, to be honest. Pokemon, for my money, pretty much has one good remake, and it's Heart Gold and Soul Silver, I think. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire aren't so bad. I wouldn't say they're bad. I don't dislike Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. I just don't like them the way that I like the originals, if that makes sense. There's a lot of really good stuff. Alright, here's my thoughts. The first remakes they ever did, Fire and Leaf Green, I think they're stinkers. I really do not like Fire and Leaf Green. I do not think they're very good games. I don't think they succeed at doing an update, and I don't think they succeed at preserving the original feeling of the games. I think they fail in both regards. Heart Gold and Soul Silver, I think, are fucking phenomenal. I think they nailed it in every goddamn way conceivable. I don't think you can... Oh, really? Dang. We haven't had this happen in a little while. So, for me, Heart Gold and Soul Silver are pretty much the best remake they've ever done. They really... I don't know how they did it, but they preserved the original game's feeling and intent. I think that when you play Heart Gold, it does feel pretty similar to the Gen 2 experience. It feels very similar to it, but it also manages to somehow feel pretty well updated because there's so much extra features. The Pokédex is updated. It's great for the gyms have different puzzles, and I think they're pretty good. I don't know. Heart Gold and Soul Silver are just they fucking nail it, dude. Then there is Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, probably the most divisive remake because Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire are actually not that similar to regular Ruby and Sapphire. Every single gym has a completely different puzzle. The story is actually different. There's a bunch of different mechanics that are new and pretty cool. I really like the Dex Nav. I do. I really, really, really like Soaring in the Sky. I actually think the game art is also very good. Someone earlier said the graphics don't do a good job. I think that's wrong. The X and Y chibi art style is very cute, and I think it suits Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire pretty well. But there's something off about the game. I don't know what it is. The vibe is like not right, and I think it's that Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire are more of a complete upgrade. The core of the game's identity is not super similar to the it's not similar to the original games, I don't think. Not similar enough in my mind. I don't know. They're good games. They're closer to like what if Ruby and Sapphire were released in as X and Y, if that makes sense. I do like it though. I think they're pretty good. I'm glad we got Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, is what I will say. I think they are a worthy addition to the franchise. I have still to this day never played Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. I would argue it's technically a remake. Because it is, to me, just the progression of the game and the way it functions is not super meaningfully different than any of the Gen 1 games, I think. But I've never played them. Now, if we look at BDSP, I don't know. BDSP is better than... I don't know. BDSP sucks almost for the same reason Fire Red and Leaf Green suck. It is a stinky game. BDSP claim to be faithful remakes, but they are neither a faithful remake nor are they an actual meaningful update to the original game, if that makes sense, right? So the reason they're not faithful is because a bunch of stuff is different. Now, obviously, I'm not going to say stuff like fairy type. You know, you can't not have fairy type. You can't, like, you know, I'm not gonna fault them for that. But I think some of the gym leaders have different teams. They added a bunch of post-game features like rematches. The underground is completely different. The EXP share is always on. I don't know. They do not feel the same as playing a Gen 4 game to me. They do not feel the same. And yet all of the changes they've done hardly qualify as updates. Really, the main advantage... In fact, I will say this. I would probably say that one of the main, like, if you were like, what's the best way to just I would say it's probably the better way to experience the Gen 4, like to experience Sinnoh, probably. Um like just because the pace of the game is so much faster. BDSP are not the worst mainline Pokemon games. I think Fire and Leaf Green are significantly worse than BDSP. I definitely think BDSP is a more enjoyable game. Platinum does not fix the pace of Diamond and Pearl very much, to be honest with you. Diamond and Platinum is still a very slow game. It is not much faster. It is genuinely not much faster, and the variety in Platinum is actually not as good. A lot of people dunk on the Grand Underground. They really do not like the Grand Underground compared to the original Diamond and Pearl Underground. But one of the best parts about it is the variety of Pokemon in the Grand Underground is insane. It is the unbelievable amount of variety in the Grand Underground. And so it's actually more fun to build and make teams in BDSP than even in Platinum, I think. Because you can get a bunch of Pokemon really early. Like, the moment you get access to the Underground, you can fucking go in there and catch a Magmar, you can get your Houndoom, you can catch a Gastrodon. It's fucking awesome, actually. To be honest with you, that's the main advantage of it, I think. I think they're probably one of the best ways to experience Sinnoh. I don't like the visuals in BDSP that much, to be honest with you. I think the Gen 4 graphics hit, and I don't think BDSP's graphics do the same thing, if you ask me. To be fair, I don't miss the secret bases in BDSP, but that's because I never really did secret bases in Gen 4. I never really participated in that. I would say Ranch technically counts. It's not a storage system in the same way, though, unfortunately. Because you can only withdraw Pokemon onto the same game, which sucks. But if you just need to put guys away... No. Updated Ranch doesn't matter. Ranch, the main... People are misunderstanding. The main advantage of a storage system like Ranch is that you can put Pokemon in from multiple games into the same system and then take them out into any games. So in Pokemon Box, I could connect to this game, put my Swampert into Box, and then put in my Emerald and then take that Swampert out. I could trade if I only had one console, one GBA and one GameCube, for example. And you could do that with any of the Gen 3 games. My Pokemon Ranch, even, like, if I put a Pokemon in there from my Diamond version, and then I connect to my Pearl version, I cannot take the Pokemon from Diamond and put it into my Pearl. It does not work that way. So even the updated Ranch, yes, it allows you connect to Pokemon Platinum, but you still can't do the any game situation, right? So if Ranch could do that, it would be pretty good, but otherwise it's a shitty game, I would say. I do think it's cute. I mean, I don't hate it. I just don't use it. Box actually, you know, people talking up Box right now, Box also kind of sucks. There is a bunch of conditions on Box that prevents it from working until you're in the post game. And one of the best parts of a system like Box should be that you can connect, like, it would be great if you could connect a Pokemon game that just started so you could trade over a bunch of eggs really quick. Or so that you could just quickly get all the starters without trading, stuff like that. Now, once you're in the, and it also doesn't work with other languages, so you can only use one language, and it also doesn't work with if there's glitches. I don't expect it to. You need to register 100 Pokemon in your Pokedex to withdraw other people's Pokemon. So if you're just doing a quick playthrough, you can't even take someone else's Pokemon out, which really sucks. And if you ever have any Glitchmon in your game, it literally won't connect. I don't expect to be able to trade Glitchmon through Box. I understand that that's not going to work, but I would like it to just let it connect to my game, bro. Come on. But it won't let you do that, unfortunately. It simply will not let you do such a thing. There's an emulator that has a Sapphire ROM. It's an emulator that has a Sapphire ROM inside of it. And then it sends your save file through the GameCube GBA connector cable. So you still need a physical GBA and a game? Yes, correct. Pokemon Stadium work the same way? I have just not used Stadium enough to know how well it works. In terms of actually its storage system. Thank you, person. Appreciate you. Oh, Home still doesn't connect to BDSP properly. Isn't Stadium like Game Boy hardware jammed into a cartridge? I don't think so. I think there's an actual emulator in there. Because it can do fast forward, Lincoln. Or you're talking about the transfer pack. If you're talking about the transfer pack, I think you're right. BDSP, you can't spin the in or out, and you also can't send out the evolutions of an Incada. They end up getting counted as clones. They get flagged by the clone detection system, and they didn't write an exception for Ninjask. Super Game Boy is just a Super Game Boy, and Super Game Boy 2 are just Game Boys in a cartridge, yeah. I think that's what you're thinking of, Lincoln. That's not hasty. What is this nature? This is lax. 4. Whoa, we were fucking way off. What the heck happened to me here? We're just gonna ignore this attempt. They technically are compatible in some way. You could, if you write an appropriate E card, you can make it work just fine, which I have technically done. Super Game Boy, I think, is the only difference is one chip. It doesn't play the Game Boy boot screen. I think it does play the game. It has its own unique Game Boy boot screen, I believe. I have both Super Game Boys. I have Super Game Boy and Super Game Boy 2. Do not buy a Super Game Boy 2. It is basically worthless. Super Game Boy 2, I thought it would play Game Boy Color games. It doesn't. I don't even know what it does. It has a link cable port where the original Game Boy doesn't. I don't know what other features it has. What does it do? Let's see. Oh, the Super Game Boy actually runs at the correct hertz. That's interesting. I didn't realize it fixed the speed issue. Whoa. Oh, I see it does. Thank you. I fixed it. Okay, so it has a... The differences are Super Game Boy 2, LED power light, link cable port, and 5 new graphics borders that could be displayed while playing the game. And then it actually runs at the correct hertz of the original handheld, but it can't play Game Boy Color games. Why do people shiny hunt? I have no idea. You know, actually, the Super Game Boy 2 might be worth it. A Super Game Boy 2 is only $40, whereas the Super Game Boy is like $25. So, if you can afford a Super Game Boy, you can probably afford a Super Game Boy 2, and it's actually probably worth it rather than a Super Game Boy. Yeah, I mean, if you want to play Game Boy games on your TV, get a fucking Game Boy player for your GameCube. Don't get a Super Game Boy, but some people like getting shit. What up, Tavia? How you doing? Yeah, I have to go to the bathroom pretty badly, so I'm gonna get up and go. I'll be back. Don't leave, all of you. I'm coming back in less than 5 minutes. Oh, man. All right. Try number 2. I also did not think that I would miss the timer. That's alright, though. What happened while I was gone? I don't say nothing. There's the argument. I love arguing. Needless to say, that coffee went right through me. I'm back with Parliament impeached for our crazy president. Worst 10 days of my life. Holy moly. I thought that he's still doing shit. I saw that they, like, overturned his martial law. But, or what, are you trying to kick him out right now? Ugh. It's crazy. I mean, you know, in America, we just elected a president who previously tried to overthrow the government. So, I mean, things aren't great here. So. I mean, you know, people meme on freedom of speech. Unfortunately, freedom of speech is very important. I mean, did he try, or didn't the protests just escalate? No, Donald Trump tried to overthrow the United States government. His goal was to get people to go there to stop Mike Pence from certifying the vote. That was his goal. Even if he didn't want violence, you can read it charitably and say Trump didn't want any violence. But if assuming Trump didn't want any violence, what he did want was for the protesters to succeed in convincing Mike Pence to not approve the electorate vote and to use the alternate fake electors. That is an attempt at overthrowing the United States government. Regardless of if any violence occurred, he still tried to overthrow the government by getting Mike Pence to swear in false electorates. This was something planned for a very long time. He had many people tell him that he lost and it was impossible, and so he got rid of all the people surrounding him. Well, no, you know, I didn't finish that thought. Freedom of speech is important, but really, freedom of speech is only actually important for speaking out against the government and for, like, speaking out against oppressive forces like corporations, right? Freedom of speech is not actually, like, that important when, like, talking to your friends. You know what I mean? It's important that you are allowed to say things that go against the government's will, and it's important that you're allowed to say things that go against corporations' will. That's what freedom of speech is important for. Freedom of speech is not important for you to be able to go on Twitter and say slurs or whatever. If that makes sense. That's why, and people think that, like, freedom of speech has no limits, but, like, you literally, it does have limits. Like, I think that the news, in America probably shouldn't have, like, I think the news in America needs to be in America needs to be like obligated to tell the truth. They are like currently allowed to lie a lot. It's very surprising. Freedom of speech ends when you offend someone. Well, you don't want it to because you can offend someone. No, okay, so like, for example, you say freedom of speech ends when you offend someone. To be clear, I'm going to offend someone when I say something like, I support trans rights. I might literally offend a conservative. You know what I mean? And so it's like, okay, well, does that stop? Like, like, I think women should get abortions, or should be able to get abortions, will probably offend some very religious conservative groups. Does freedom of speech stop there? I don't think so. It shouldn't. But it doesn't necessarily matter very much in that context, right? Whether or not I offend a person, or my ability to offend a person, actually doesn't matter that much. What matters is that I'm allowed to speak out against the government and companies and stuff like that. That's what freedom of speech is important for. Does Trump try to block freedom of speech? Yes, he wants to be able to. He wanted to be able. He really didn't get very far, but he did have a couple of anti-speech properties. He wanted to make it illegal to burn the United States flag. That is anti-freedom of speech. That is anti-protest. Those are really important things. You should be able to burn the U.S. flag as public protest demonstration. That's actually important. He also wanted to be able to sue journalists easier. To this day, I don't super know what he meant by open up the libel laws to be able to. I don't really think that he even knows what he meant. I think that he wanted probably to make it more lax on what, like, libel and slander included. I'm not really sure, but he basically wanted to be able to sue news companies easier, more successfully, to get them to stop saying bad things about him, even if they were true. That's what he wanted to be able to do. Is burning the flag not currently illegal? Of course it's not illegal. What are you talking about? Burning the flags, I mean, maybe Trump made it illegal, but I don't think he would have. Burning the flag is absolutely legal in the US, unless Trump banned it. No. Why should... It's a direct form of treason. It is not a form of treason. Burning your flag is a protest against the government. It is saying, my government fucking sucks. You people suck. I'm burning this flag to show you that you suck. It is freedom of... It is... To me, it is a good thing that burning the US flag is legal. I think it's good. Actually, it's hard for me to even understand a perspective that someone would have that they think it's bad. The government is not the country. Unfortunately, the government is the country. Well, the government governs the nation, and the government uses the flag of the country to represent itself. The United States military and all United States official government buildings, they use the American flag as a way to represent themselves, which is the entity of the US government. That flag represents the US government's and the US government's actions, And so burning it naturally is protest against the government and its actions. The president actually has his own flag. Yes, but the president is also represented by the US flag because it's on the fucking building that he lives in. Yeah, we've been pretty close all day, Robert. What am I saying is a stretch? You think I'm sorry. You think the US government being represented by the US flag is a stretch? What are we even talking about? The government fucking made the flag. The flag didn't exist until the government wanted one. Like, I don't understand. Like, you could tell me that countries exist even without, like, flags and without governments, right? The concept of Italy, for example, existed before the country was unified. Those were several different countries, and there is some sort of concept of an Italian people, but even right now, the country is like, like, is pretty divided. The military does not represent the people of the United States. The military specifically represents the United States government and the United States government's interest. Flags are representations of the organizations that they stand for. The United States flag represents the United States government, just like each state's flag represents that state's government, because the states are the ones that commission the flags for themselves. If your mom makes a pullover for you, is it then a pullover of your... I don't know what a pullover is. A sweater? That's a very bad analogy. I don't even think that analogy is, like, not even comparable. What are you talking about? The flag does not necessarily represent the people. The flag can represent the people, but I as a US citizen can say, am I represented by this flag? I can say no, because I believe that this flag is a symbol of the government that made it, and I do not support what the government is doing. Therefore, I do not support this flag and the actions that it takes, right? A flag only exists to be a symbol of something. It is not an arbitrary object that was made for no reason. Yes, but that's why I'm not saying it's just about the president, Phelan, right? I'm saying there are many branches of the government, and you can, I think that if you want to burn the flag in protest, to protest what the president did, that's valid. I think if you want to burn the flag to protest the Supreme Court, if you want to burn the flag to protest the military, each one of these individually is acceptable because they are arms of the US government. But you can also say burning it is to holistically signify your rejection of the system of the US government, right? It is an act of free speech. Absolutely. Yes, Lincoln. Yeah. I didn't say that it only represents the government. I said that it does represent the government, which is true. If I burn the US flag and you come up to me and you go, why are you burning that flag? It represents me, a US citizen. I love it here in this country, even if everything isn't perfect. And I say, I'm not burning it to say that I hate you, other US citizens. I'm burning it in protest of what my country is doing right now, what the government is doing right now. It's really upsetting to me, and this flag represents our government's interests, right? And then I could say, this doesn't represent me attacking you, it represents me attacking the government. And then they could say, okay, if they were a reasonable human being. The government does not create a flag necessarily for its people. Creating a flag does create unity sometimes if people buy into patriotism. but it's just like a flag is just a shorthand symbol for what our country is, right? It's just like saying like, hey, this is the government. I don't feel a strong identity as a US citizen. I don't, like, if you ask me, Blisy, what identities do you strongly associate yourself with? Like, do you view yourself as an American? Is that an important identity to you? I would say no, not necessarily. Because I don't really buy very much into patriotism. Like, I'm not very passionate about my country. I'm passionate about the people in my country. I want people who live where I lived to have a good life, but I'm not like end all or be all. Like, I love being American. It's the best here. Blah, blah, blah. Do I identify myself first by my state or by my descent? For me, I think that my personality is, if you're talking, I'm not that far removed from the immigrant generation of my family, but I do think that being a New Yorker who lived close to the New York who lived in the New York metropolitan area, I think that had a more profound impact on my upbringing and attitude in life, compared to me being of Italian descent. Although I do, like, American Italian culture is very important to me. Like, it is genuinely very important to me. I identify a lot with it. Not actual Italians. Obviously, being American Italian is different than being a fucking Italian. But the culture, the American Italian culture on the East Coast is actually very strong. It's like, I'm sure it's not super easy for a lot of Europeans to like understand like how strong some of these diasporic communities can get. But like, yeah, both of my parents are descendants of Italian immigrants because there was just a huge Italian immigrant community in that area they grew up. Like, they grew up in different states, but it was New York and New Jersey has that huge thing. Which part of the boot? We're from my grandfather's side is Sardinian. Like, my great grandpa didn't even speak English or Italian. He only spoke Sardinian. And his wife spoke it like the traditional Italian dialect, which I think is like Florentine dialect, and she also spoke Sardinian. And then I think my mom's entire side of the family, they are from Positano, and I want to say my dad's other side of the family is from... We don't know a lot about her side of the family. I've heard her tell me... Oh, fuck. From Bologna, I think. But Sardinian immigrants is weird, which is from what I understand. Patriotism is wild to you? Well, it depends on in what context you're talking about, right? So it's interesting, like, for me, patriotism can make sense in specific ways, right? If you ask me, yeah, I'm very white. I'm definitely not very Mediterranean. So, like, what I'm trying to get at here is me saying, like, I want Americans... Like, first of all, I consider myself a person of the world. I want the entire world to have a better life. But me, in my lifetime, I'm not going to be able to impact other places other than where I live, right? So I want Americans to have a better life. I want better healthcare here. I want a better education system here. I care about the people living in America because that's where I live, and that's where, if I have children, they are going to live. So you could say that I'm patriotic because I want the country to be a better place, right? But I don't support America I don't support the US government unquestioningly. And I don't not think about the things that the government has done to both its people and to foreign peoples, right? I think it's literally crazy that you think it's bad to burn your country's flag. Almost all of the flags were created by governments as a symbol of the government and use them to show this is our government's land. Like, that's the main thing about a flag, right? Like, when you think about, like, what is the origin of a flag and why does it exist? It's a coalition, some type of government would go to a place that it didn't already own, win a war, and then put the flag there and go, this shit's ours now. Like, that's the point of a flag, to show what territory it belongs to. It is like a conquering tool. And a symbol to rally behind, probably mostly for soldiers. I'm sure there is some flags that are like that. I have no doubt. But, like, flags are like... It's a straw man. I don't think that's a straw man. I think there are a lot of patriotic people who are just like, yes, I love America. America's great. And aren't, like, questioning things too much. I think you need to, like, assess why you think that burning a flag would be bad. Like, what is the negative outcome of me burning a flag as a protest to the government? I mean, American people are really attached to their flag. I think you can be an American and say, I love America, I love our flag, and what you should also be saying is, as an American, one of the most American things that you can do is burn the fucking flag, because that is freedom of speech and freedom of expression. It is one of the most American things to do, to be able to say, fuck the government, fuck you, you're a piece of shit, burn the flag, stop invading countries, stop causing coups. That is American. Like, and if you're an American who doesn't think that, you're literally less American than me. Like, who I don't, like, highly identify as an American. You know what I mean? For example, my father is a big rules person. He fucking loves rules. He loves them. He follows the flag code to a T. So if you guys don't know, if you want to display the United States flag, there is a set of rules. There's a set of rules you're supposed to have in order to display the flag. It has to be on a flagpole going straight up. It's not supposed to be on a tilted flagpole. It's not supposed to be on... It's like, really, it's not supposed to be on clothing or, like, headbands or, like, a sticker. It's supposed to fly a certain amount of time at a certain amount of height, and you're not supposed to keep it up at night unless you have it well lit. This is true. My dad had a flagpole that was, like, regulation flagpole height, which is, like, 2 stories, and he bought spotlights for it so it would stay lit at night. And then if the flag got a single tear, he would take it down and get a new one, because the flag is also not supposed to be ripped. My dad would also say, yes, you should be able to burn the flag in a protest, because that's freedom of speech. Because he's American. So if this person who loves flag rules and flies the flag more appropriately than 90% of them, I would say 99% of Americans do not fly the flag as appropriately as he does. Also think you should be able to burn the flag in protest. Like, you should be assessing. Yeah, I would call it patriotism to want the country you live in to be better. Yeah, I would say so. You think Southern conservatives don't criticize Obama or Biden? I would actually say that Southern conservatives do not criticize Obama or Biden because they are so fucking stupid. They don't understand the decisions that you don't, man, if you don't live in America, like, you actually don't understand what it's like. The left-leaning party in America is basically, I don't know, how do I want to say the Democrats? Like, they're like corporate leaning cowards who kind of don't push enough for the people and try very hard to maintain political norms, even though the other side has no interest in it. No, they don't criticize Biden. And let me explain to you what I mean by they do not criticize Biden. Okay? The right party in America currently is effectively a cult for Trump. Trump has no policies. If you watch the debates with Trump, if you watch any podcasts with Trump or Vance, they literally they did not have policies. I could not tell you. I could tell you, I think, one policy Trump stated that I've actually seen, which is that Trump said that he didn't want to tax overtime. He wanted to do, that's the only policy that I've seen Trump literally state. So they're not, when people are criticizing Biden, they literally aren't criticizing his policy. They are just making shit up because they hate him. Because they are unquestionably brought into a cult that, like, doesn't actually say, like, truthful things. Like, if you watch Fox News or Newsmax, they just lie. They don't say anything true. It's like literally crazy. It's actually, it's truly insane. And, like, there are lefties in America. Like, listen, I get hating the Democratic Party. They're fucking loser shills. I get it. Trust me, okay? I get it. I really do get it. But, like, the right-leaning party is so bad, it doesn't, like, there's not even a contest. Like, I would say a Trump, like, when I criticize Trump, I look at, like, the fact that he wants to do tariffs, right? And I go, this is a bad policy. These tariffs are going to make Americans' lives worse. I look at Trump when he says, I want to have no taxes on overtime wage. And I go, okay, well, how are you going to count that, Trump? Like, explain the intricacies of this policy to me. And he's not going to be able to do that because he doesn't have any, right? And why do you think not taxing overtime is going to be an effective way to help the American people? Please explain that to me. These are the types of criticisms I'm going to levy when I'm looking at Trump. I'm going to look at Trump also, and I'm going to say Trump is largely gaining his success by attacking minorities. In 2016, it was mostly through immigrants, and he still did it this time, of course. He was targeting the asylum program while calling all of them illegal immigrants, which they are not. The asylum program is what he's meaning to attack because they're not illegal immigrants. And he's also viciously attacking trans people. And these are the things I'm going to criticize Trump for. When you look at Biden and you go, give me some criticisms of Biden, if you're a Republican, right? They don't list policies to you, right? They look at you and go, grocery prices are high. Inflation is high. Okay. And the rate of inflation has gone down, first of all. Second of all, is that all you have? Like, what do you have? And then, like, they just talk about trans stuff, or they talk about the fact that he's old. Like, as if Trump isn't also fucking old and, like, delusional. Like, if you... Listen, I don't like Trump. They do not have reasonable criticisms towards Biden. I would argue that almost no Republican has said anything reasonable against Biden. You say there are reasonable criticisms they have towards Biden. Show me a criticism of Republicans towards Biden. Show me a policy criticism that they have, and then why they think that it would be bad. I don't think that you can, because I don't think that they do it. The conservative party in America, it literally doesn't exist anymore. There is no policy. There is no party. The party is support Trump. Like, I'm not, a lot of people think that Trump is like a good speaker. I never thought that. So if you watch him in 2016 and you watch him now, his speaking ability has deteriorated significantly. I think that criticism is entirely invalid, in part because Biden did it after the election. So this doesn't matter. This is not a criticism of Biden before the election. Biden didn't do this before the election. Like, this isn't something that they could have criticized. It's absurd to outlaw destroying the symbol of a country and call it treason. I agree. I agree. For example, most Americans don't know that Obamacare is the Affordable Care Act. Like, they literally don't know that. I mean, like Jan 6, yeah. You tried to overthrow the fucking government, bro. Nope. The Republicans branded ACA as Obamacare to view it negatively. And then when the Republicans did a couple of things that changed the ACA, they were praising it. This is what I mean by the Conservative Party doesn't exist anymore. Because if the Conservative Party existed and actually stood for the things that they say that they stood for, they would have indicted Trump. Military support that America was giving to Ukraine, I don't think that's a reasonable criticism, actually. No, I do not think it's a reasonable criticism to say America should not be giving help to Ukraine. Absolutely not. No. Currently, Russia is a very big enemy of the United States government. The amount of Russians interfering with the U.S. election is truly insane. Trump has definitely colluded with Russia in the past. In addition to that, most of the things that we are giving to Ukraine is not monetary support. It is old and outdated munitions and weapons and tanks and stuff. And they are paying for some of it. The only reason to not support giving aid to Ukraine is a fully isolationist perspective, which I think is literally insane. I do not think you want to have an isolationist perspective, and I don't think it's a valid critique to say we should not be helping out a country in that way. Yeah, Intrigued Feline. Intrigued Feline is actually correct. See, but this is the perfect thing, Intrigued Feline, right? The statement that I think that we should be focusing on the US instead of giving stuff. If a pro-Russian protest was being held in America, I don't understand what you're saying. But I think this is an interesting thing to say, Intrigued Feline, right? On the surface, it looks reasonable to say we probably shouldn't be giving all of this aid to Ukraine when we have a lot of issues at home. But the problem is the Republican Party does not want to address those issues. They want to strip social programs, all of them, keep the military extremely well funded, and turn everything private. They are not interested in solving problems domestically, and giving all of this shit to Ukraine really is not hurting the social programs or the people of America in any meaningful way. Not giving aid to Ukraine is very harmful to the U.S. To the U.S. people, I think. If Russian migrants were having a pro-Russian, pro-Putin So if you're saying Russians who moved to America are protesting the U.S. government's involving of Ukraine, saying we should be supporting Russia, no, that's not treason. I would think that they're wrong, but it's not treason. Like, I think that the thing that they're doing is, the thing that they feel is incorrect. It's not treason, though. They are protesting in actions that the U.S. government are taking. No, that's not treason. They're burning the U.S. flag to say, hey, you're inciting a war against my people where my family live. Fuck you, stop this. I think that's a reasonable critique of the U.S. government, yeah. And they should be able to burn the flag to do that, yeah. Ugh, 1 seed early, 1 advance late. You're probably never going to get me. I will pretty much always agree that it's reasonable to burn the U.S. flag. By the way. Do Americans not learn their own history? No. American protest history is framed in a way where all the protests of the past, were done peacefully and fine, and it was okay, and it was good that they did it. But then whenever a current protest happened, it's violent and bad, and it should never be happening. You don't actually learn in public school history. You don't really learn how adversarial Martin Luther King was during his protest, for example. I don't know a better term, but like they whitewash Martin Luther King a lot, in a specific sense, right? Yeah, I don't want to be too doomer, but it does feel very bad. I would say, so far, based on your insights, you have a better understanding of American history than a lot of Americans that I've met so far. A lot of Americans don't actually have a great understanding of U.S. history and the reason. Like the war against communism in America is like typically framed pretty positively. For example, like like I don't know, McCarthyism is like not even framed that negatively in America. It's pretty crazy. Okay, so if you don't give aid to Ukraine and then you appease Russia by letting Ukraine just lose and not putting up resistance, you think that's a good thing to have happen for the world? Remember, that's like how World War II started, where people just started let Germany take shit. I don't think communism and socialism are that far removed from each other. What is the peace negotiation? Russia needs to fucking leave Ukraine without taking another sovereign country's territory. Putin does not want peace. Putin wants to reform the Soviet Union violently. Like, what is the negotiation? There is no... He's going to continue escalating if people let him. What do you think of Israel-Palestine? It's not good. Things aren't good over there. Broader, yeah, I'm not really being too specific about it. Yeah, but a lot of European history is like fucking way older than... Well, the French Revolution was after Americans, so I don't fucking know. I don't know shit about the French Revolution. We learned about it in school, and I don't have any... I have no brain space for it. Yeah, in regards to U.S. involvement, occupation, I mean, I don't know. What do you mean? I don't think there's, like, too many U.S. forces in Israel right now. I don't think you're ever going to get the U.S. government to stop sending aid to Israel. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I don't think that the way Israel is occupying the current Palestinian territories is good or acceptable either. But I also don't really think there's... a lot of people are seemingly pro one-state solution. I don't really think that's ever going to happen either. They're funding a genocide. Yeah, I'm saying there's not... You said, like, soldier... Like, I thought you were talking about soldiers, because you said occupation, so I thought you were talking about U.S. soldiers going there. I was like, I don't think that's happening. I've done it on stream before a little bit. I mean, I think people need to be harder against... I think the government needs to be harder against what Netanyahu and his cronies are doing. It's truly insane. Yeah, I didn't disagree with that. The... Yeah, I know. I think the only way out of it is to get the leaders of that area to agree on something, and I don't think it's ever going to happen. And I also don't think no matter how many... maybe you think that I'm too pessimistic about this, but I don't think you're ever going to get a situation where the U.S. government stops sending funding over, or even put stricter conditions on the funding, especially with Trump in power now. Like, I don't think there's anything that we can do. I think maybe you had a chance to get the Democratic Party to be more, like, strict with their funding towards Israel, but I think there's zero chance you're ever going to get Trump and his government to do anything to slow down what's going on in Gaza, even pull funding. I don't think it's possible. I literally don't think it's possible. And I think there's a lot of people who want a one-state solution. I don't think that's going to... I think a lot of people have to accept that Israel is not going anywhere. I think that even if the U.S. government removed literally all of its funding and fully stopped funding Israel, I don't think the country would go anywhere. I don't think you'd get it to stop. But I don't know enough about Israel itself to know what you would have to do to get them to just let an actual, like, independent government form in the Palestinian territories. Like, I don't know what you would have to do to convince them to, like, fucking leave and let them form, like, an actual independent government there. I do not think they would do it all. I don't think Israel would stop at all. I think maybe they'd pull back a little bit. Maybe like the full-scale invasion and bombings would slow down, which obviously that'd be good, but I don't think the occupation would immediately stop or anything like that. And part of the problem is, for better or worse at this point, Israel is like responsible. I mean, listen, you can't take... I don't want to get into this, but like Israel is responsible for the situation at hand. So like if Israel just pulls out now and does nothing, that's like also not good. But you don't want the situation right now also where like Israel is like solo controlling the fucking like water and shit, right? Like you need like you need them to agree to a transition period. Oh, that really sucks. Wow. You know what I mean? You need them to like agree to some kind of fucking transition period. Where they help them set up, and like you're gonna get people saying things. First of all, I don't think the fucking people in power in Palestine would ever agree to that anyway. I think they want Israel literally gone off the face of the earth, and I don't think that's... Well, Hamas wants that. I don't know about the general population of Israel, and I just don't think you're ever gonna get that. So I don't really have a solution. I think there's a chance that you could pressure Dems to do it, to have done something. They are very cowardly and status quo-y, so I don't know how much you could have shifted them. Kamala at least said Palestinian... She verbally said out loud at a rally that Palestinians deserve the right to self-determination, which is important that she said that, but I don't know how much more you could have shifted her insofar as her ability to fund less or criticize Netanyahu more or something like that. You know what I mean? There's a big push in the American right to be anti-Zionist. That is just not true. Donald Trump literally moved the U.S. consulate to fucking Jerusalem. One of the most politically charged things the U.S. government has done in decades for the Israel-Palestine conflict. That is one of the most politically charged things the U.S. government has done in a very long time for that conflict. To say, fuck the people. Donald Trump literally says that he wants to flatten Gaza to make it beachfront hotel property there. He literally verbally said that. What do you mean? like what? When it comes to the IP conflict stuff, I'm generally pretty, like, I don't know if, in terms of America's involvement in it anyway, I generally feel pretty hopeless about the capacity for anything to change. Yo, what's up, Chris? If that makes sense. I think Americans in general don't care enough about foreign policy, and I think the government feels like it's protecting its interests in the Middle East by having an ally in Israel in there. So I don't think that the government in general would want to be doing anything to change the amount of funding or anything that they're going to do. So I feel like in my head, I'm thinking about it and I'm like, there's just like, what can you do? Like, I don't think that, I feel like no matter how many letters or calls you make to your fucking congressman, you're gonna get fucking anything. like I said, maybe you could have gotten the Democratic Party to get more correct on this issue. I believe you probably could have pressured Kamala a little bit, but I think at this point with the Trump government in, you're fucked. Like, call your representatives all you like. You're passionate about this. I mean, Kamala basically, I believe she probably lost Michigan because of how she wasn't, like, verbally supportive of Palestinians enough. The Republicans do not talk about real issues, FFF. You do not know what you're talking about. They don't talk about any issues. They don't talk about anything. The Republican Party literally does not talk about anything in America. It is insane. I have no faith in Kamala after 14 months of genocide. To me, she's the fucking vice president. I don't think she had too much power. I guess she could have tried to influence Joe, I guess. But like she said, Palestinians have the right to self-determination. I think that's a good thing. I think that's something that you could say, like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Like maybe she could be pressured or whatever, right? But I think it probably wouldn't have happened. I think maybe she could have been pressured about it. But if she didn't do it for this election and her team didn't see it as an issue worth winning in Michigan, then maybe it probably never would have happened. I think that's not unfair to say. But I think, like, for me with Trump in power, it's like so fucking doomed. It's like, yeah, that guy moved the fucking embassy to Jerusalem, bro. Like, they're not, again, right. Yeah, I literally think that she lost Michigan because she was not positive enough. Like not pro-Palestine enough, basically. Like I think that's probably why she lost Michigan. The farthest left person in the US government that I know of is Bernie Sanders. And he might even still be to the right of, like, a lot of European countries. I mean, he does have some pretty extreme policies for a left-leaning American. Like, he wants nationwide rent control. That's a pretty left-wing policy for an American. That is not something that a lot of people, I don't know, not a lot of what people would support, but yeah. Yo, thank you for the memberships, Fativan. Appreciate you. Everybody show Fativan some Blisy love. Birdie would do okay in the Nordics, I feel. Noise. I'm definitely not a communist, but it depends on what you're talking about. My issue with communism, how it's been implemented in the countries that I've seen it be implemented, is it always gets put as a one-party system, and it doesn't have certain rights. Like, it doesn't have, like, free speech against the government's issues and stuff like that. But, like, the problem is that the two places where communism happened is pretty much, like, it also was basically, like, dictatorships. So, I don't really know. Like, I don't really know. Like, it's not like the USSR was like an idyllic version of communism. You know what I mean? It's not like that was what the fucking philosophers who thought about it wanted it to be. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, well, what does it even mean then, right? Zionist issue when it comes to left or right? I mean, the thing about, like, the far right in America just want to be isolationism. So you could say, oh, maybe they're better on Israel-Palestine in the sense that they want to be isolationist, but I think, like, wanting to be isolationist is fucking stupid. I think we should move towards globalism and move towards a fucking one Earth government, brother. Oh, God damn it. Yeah, I know. The whole fucking thing is, like, the whole Earth is leaning right, which is, like, awful. I also think a big problem with the U.S. government, or not the U.S. government, sorry. A lot of leftists, there are a lot of people in America who, there is, like, a decent amount of people in America who are, like, much further left than the Democratic Party. But part of the problem is the left never wants to, like, form coalitions to defeat things, right? The people in America, like, the Democratic Party is too afraid of the people further left than them, because they're either afraid that they'll lose their moderate base, or that they're afraid that they will lose their power by having more left-leaning policies in their party. But then the left base, like, is not in support of incrementalism, and like they also, like, won't accept any form of, like, liberalism. And so because of that, there's, like, a lot of infighting, and they don't actually coalesce. Like, I think if you're, like, a communist, you can, like, hope for a revolution and fight for that and do that if that's what you believe, but, like, you should also do your best to incrementally improve things at the same time, if that makes sense, right? I think if you want socialism or fucking communism or whatever, you have to accept incrementalism to currently improve the active lives of citizens while protesting and being an activist for bigger change, if that makes sense, right? You could choose all the presidential candidates for 2024. Who's your ideal president? Well, the Dems didn't have a primary. The Republicans didn't even have a primary, did they? They had, like, 2 primaries, and then Trump was just crowned God King. I mean, I voted for Kamala, and I support Kamala, yeah. She was the best of the options presented to me, unfortunately. I mean, and I think voting for a third party is a LARP. Like, I think that you have to accept that you're given a binary option in the US. And that's it. I, like, didn't even look that much at the other candidates. There have been maybe 1 to 2 candidates in any elections that I've been of age for that I would have voted for. None of them made it to the final stage. Do you not vote, Shao? Oh, okay. That makes sense. I don't know. I didn't hate Biden that much, to be honest with you. He had all the student loan stuff that he wanted to do that Congress denied him on. I was like, there was things, like, there are things about both Kamala and Biden that I was, like, enthusiastic about, right? Kamala had the child tax credit and the first-time homebuyer tax credit for $25,000. That if she was elected and put that in, that would have been, like, very helpful for me, and I think that would have been helpful for a lot of Americans, right? So it's like, I'm not, like, super passionate about her, but I look at the things that she wanted to do insofar as her policies, and I go, well, that's pretty good. I like that. Or who the fuck is De La Cruz? I don't know who this is. Let's just Socialist Party. I don't know. This is a LARP. Third parties are a LARP. Third parties are a LARP. You're throwing your vote in the garbage and allowing the person you are the most ideologically opposed to win. What you want is what you want is like, how do I say this? What you want to vote for is not genocide. But so the thing is, Olav, from your frame of mind, you're voting for a genocide either way. Like, voting for La Cruz is a vote for Trump's version of the genocide that you're not in support of, right? You have to accept that incrementalism and that Dems are A, they are able to be pressured, and B, maybe slightly better than Trump on that specific issue. Like, are they both going to do it? Like, and you only have two choices. You literally only have two. Like, that's just how it works, unfortunately. That's literally how it works. I'm not saying I don't understand if you feel like you couldn't do either. I'm not saying I don't understand that. But, like, I am saying, like, I think, like, practically, you are still voting for genocide. It's just in the flavor that you don't, like, you're basically, from my frame of reference, from the way that I look at it, you still are voting for genocide. You're just voting for Trump's version of it, right? That's the frame of mind. Like, I think that, like, you are looking at it in the wrong way, in the sense of, like, you're making for worse outcomes for yourself and for the people. Okay, again, Trump moved the embassy to Jerusalem and verbally said Netanyahu should flatten the Gaza Strip and turn it into beachfront property. Like, how could it be worse? He could send more aid to them. He could send troops there. Both things that I don't actually think the Dems would do. You are voting for him, though. Not voting for the only candidate who had the ability to win other than him is voting for him. That's just how it works. Unfortunate. I mean, it sucks. I think you're just kind of looking at, like, your frame. I don't know. Yeah, they could definitely. You not having a red line on genocide is your problem. No. I think single issue voting is fucking stupid. I will always think that it is stupid. And I don't think that there's anything you're going to be able to do. Like, you are looking at it from... You and I are looking at this from a different perspective, okay? You're looking at it saying, I cannot vote for either of these parties because morally voting for them is supporting a genocide. Right? That's what you're saying. You're saying voting for either one of these parties is a vote for a genocide. I can't, on my conscience, vote for a party that's going to produce a genocide. Right? What I am saying, my perspective on it is, if both of them are doing these things, which one is slightly aligning with either my issues for other things, or which one do I think will accelerate the process worse, right? You have to, like, and if you aren't voting for one, because only one of these two parties is going to win. There is no chance in the world either one of these parties is going to win, or anyone other than these parties is going to win. There's no chance on earth either one of these parties, anyone besides these two, is going to win. So in my mind, it is immoral to do anything other than to try and minimize harm the best that you can. Wow, really? Another encounter? Like, we have fully different perspectives. Like, if you have the perspective that the Republicans aren't going to be worse on Gaza than the Democrats, I think you're probably wrong. I hope that's not the case, but I think you're wrong. I think things can and will get worse in Gaza with Trump at the helm. I think absolutely. He is like buddy-buddy with Bibi Netanyahu. Biden is on record calling Bibi Netanyahu a fucking asshole. There's like a leaked conversation of him. So I don't know. The thing is, I hope that like you see where I'm coming from when you look at this. Like in 4 years, if things are worse, and I hope they're not, but if they're worse than they were previously, like I hope your frame of mind changes and goes, okay, maybe I should try this harm minimization thing. And even as an American, let's say, hypothetically, both parties were exactly the same on Gaza, and I could see into the future, and I knew both parties would behave exactly the same on Gaza, right? Then I still think it's important to vote for the Democratic Party, because I think that other things that they're doing for the American people is important. They're better on trans rights, they're better on healthcare, they're better on working class than the Republican Party. I'm still minimizing harm to the people in my country that way. You have to go the harm. And then I think, like, because the problem is just voting for the president is like not, that's the main thing is that's not the, I've heard what you said a million times before, like, but why isn't it convincing? Like, I don't understand. Like, I can't understand your perspective. Yeah, I believe ranked choice, the way ranked choice works is that you put your number one vote in, and then when the votes are tallied, if not enough percent wins the vote, the lowest candidates are dropped off, right? And then the votes are tallied to your second most win until someone wins a majority, right? Yeah, I don't disagree, Viv. I don't necessarily disagree, but like I think that like when you're in the system, you have to vote. Yeah, ranked choice gives you the freedom to confidently vote for your who you want to for the most. But I don't think ranked choice is probably something that will work. The real problem here is like not the president, right? Other parties need other parties need to be able to win non-presidential seats in Congress, right? Like that's what needs to happen. Like you're talking about the president here, but like the issue is find a fucking local representative for Congress or for the House of Representatives, or for I said Congress for the Senate or the House of Representatives who supports what you actually want. Does that make sense, right? Like that's what you have to be doing. You have to, because there are going to be Democrats who are more anti-Israel, and so what you need to do is build the Democratic coalition by protesting, by fucking changing out your representatives in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. That's what you need to be doing first, because by doing that, you'll slowly shift the fucking way the party. Yeah, exactly. Listen, You'll never get me being a single issue voter. It'll literally never happen. That's my business. No, I think it's like a moral position that I've thought out a lot, and I think that it is correct. Yeah. Like, I am critical of people who are enabling worse outcomes for Americans and the people abroad that the foreign policy decisions that the winning party engages in by not voting for one of two potential candidates that are going to win. I think that's an important thing. Like, if you were an American citizen and you didn't vote for Kamala because of what's going on in Gaza, I would say you are intentionally creating worse outcomes for people, both, I believe, in Gaza and in Ukraine and in America itself, because you individually want to feel morally not culpable for what's going on. It's the same as someone who buys an electric vehicle because they individually don't want to feel bad about climate change, global warming, I'm going to say. Right? If you buy a Tesla because you don't want to be putting gas in the air, it's not actually affecting change against global warming, but it is making you feel less specifically morally responsible for global warming. So I think it is irresponsible as a citizen. Like, it sounds crazy, but like, let's say next year Hitler is brought back to life and the Dems run him, and then Trump runs for a third term legally somehow. I would vote for Trump. Like, and I think you'd be irresponsible not to vote for him because the other guy wants to take Jewish people and other like people of color and round them up into camps and kill them. You know, you understand what I'm saying? And the thing is, you can say, oh, well, that's a bad thing to do because Trump is so evil in so many different ways. But like at that point, your options are A, protest to overthrow the US government, which you should do. But B, if that fails, okay, do your responsibility to vote, right? Like, I think that you can advocate for greater change in the system that you're in while still voting responsibly for the candidate who most aligns with your goals, while also has actually the ability to win and counteract the person that you are, who is the other main candidate to win. Does that make sense? I feel like what I'm saying is not unreasonable. And I also feel like what I'm saying is correct. And you know, all of these third parties are like LARPs that just want, because they don't ever run or try to win anything at local levels. They never do, dude. I would love because I think there's a chance that I think that there's a non-zero chance a third part. I mean, you know, I would say that Bernie is broadly aligned with the Democratic Party, but he has run as an independent pretty much every time, even though he forms a coalition with the Democratic Party, right? And obviously he's willing to speak out more against them because he is not actually part of their party, even though he ran in their primaries, which is weird. You ever think about that? That's kind of strange. He was allowed to run as a Democratic primary candidate twice, even though he's been an independent his entire political career. I don't know how that, I'm surprised they even let him run. It's like a little surprising to me, thinking about it. Oh, finally, we're making it to Kyogre. Appreciate you're willing to have these conversations on stream. People are willing to die on hills that are so clearly against the people that I feel these conversations need to become more common. Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to have these conversations, and like, I mean, I hope I'm not alienating. Well, I don't know. I guess if you're conservative and you're sticking around, I think that's a good thing because I'm hoping that your mind can be changed. But like, I fear that like people that are like single issue on like IP, for example, will look at me and go like, this person's an enemy now. You know what I mean? And it's like, we're not enemies at the end of the day. Your perspective is just wrong. Like, I don't know. Like, again, because the main thing is voting in the election is not the main way to advocate for change and change outcomes. Other types of protests are. Shifting the party's perspective is. A fucking actual revolution is. Like, those are ways to change the status quo. More effectively. Like, because the president is going to be a representation of what the party's will is at the time. What you need to have happen before the presidential election is to be slowly changing the party's beliefs 4 years leading up to the election, right? So what the left, the people to the left of the Democratic Party need to do is at the midterms, they need to try and campaign for and protest for and vote for politicians who are more left than the current sitting Democrats. They need to show that this left will is in the party, it is possible, and then by the time the next presidential primary comes around, you'll probably get a candidate who more aligns with your beliefs. You have to do both things. You can't just sit on the internet and bitch and then vote for a third party and then get upset that nothing changes. You have to actually shift the fucking party by voting and talking to your local representatives and shit like that. And getting more left-leaning candidates in on seats, which is possible. Again, if Bernie can get elected to the Senate, there is will for more left people to be put into the Senate and to change the party's perspective. You just have to fucking try. Whew. There we go. Well, a lot of Republicans were just denying that Project 2025 was the actual goal for the Republican Party. Republicans were literally just lying and saying, Trump was literally saying, I don't know what it is. I didn't write it. It's not mine. Like, it's just a lie. Like, they were just lying, saying that they weren't using that. That's not what they were going to do, etc. It's just, they were just lying. Yeah. Man, that's how it is, man. That's all right. Bernie isn't the only example. She's also pretty left, yeah. I agree. I would have been happy with Warren. A shove in the right direction. I can read Japanese. I don't know it very well. Like, I can read all the letters on here, or all the kana, as they're called, but I don't know what a lot of the words mean. One of my favorite things is people were complaining about the price of eggs. And it's like, they're like, inflation. And it's like, actually, do you know why the price of eggs has gone up? Oh, it's because there's a fucking new strain of avian flu. Oh, why is there an insane new strain of avian flu killing everyone? Oh, could it be because of global warming? Don't you mean climate change? No, actually, climate change is a term that was come up by right-wing think tanks to make it sound less scary than it is. Do not say climate change. Say global warming. Literally, this sounds like a conspiracy because it is a conspiracy that's real. They literally right-wing think tanks worked to change the name from global warming to climate change so it sounds less scary. And we all just went along with it. We were all just like, yeah, chill. Change the climate, baby. What the fuck? It's off. It's horrible. Dude, God. Oh, I want to scream, dude. It's so awful. Dude. The whole world bought it, person. Americans are scared of nuclear power and we're not doing enough to get the other power sources going. We have to do a board game night in tabletop sim so you guys can let me participate, Chris. Right seed, a couple advances late. Method 1. I think I hit A too early. I think, to me, global warming is good enough. It is scary. To me, it's effectively scary, but maybe it's not. I don't know. I've been saying climate change for a little while just because that became like the typical, nomenclature for it, right? But I've been making an active, like, conceited effort to say global warming again. Why are leftists so against protecting local industries? What do you mean? I don't think they are. Kamala Harris literally changed her position on fracking so that she could protect a local industry in Pennsylvania to try and win the election. That is literally, definitionally, she did that. For climate change as an academic? Why? Global warming might not be the best term if that's like not, but I think that is literally what's happening. Things are getting warm. Why would a corporation care about anything other than profit motive unless it's forced to do so? The changes aren't just rising temps. True, yes. Rising temps are causing rising temperatures are causing other things like more environmental disasters, like larger hurricanes or forest fires, etc. Interesting. Ocean acidification. Yep, true. I understand. The problem is I think that climate change is too soft, right? Like, I think you need a term that is scary so that people are afraid and vote for it out of fear. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think you need to scare people and show them that this is like a scary thing that's happening. I think it's a messaging problem, right? I have to spend more money instead of cheap. I mean, the thing is FFF. Industries are dying in America because less Americans want to do those jobs for the wages that they're currently costing. And tariffs are not an effective way to keep them in America. The way that you would have to keep these industries in America is probably, if I had to say anything, probably through subsidization, right? You'd have to pay the government would have to give money to these companies to say, hey, use this to pay your employees more and stay here. You would have to do something, some type of incentive to keep the, maybe, or lower their taxes probably too much to keep them here. But the truth is, like, Americans typically aren't wanting to work these manufacturing, not only American companies aren't wanting to work these manufacturing jobs, or citizens aren't wanting to work these jobs, and companies don't want them here. And there's still enough jobs here for citizens to be doing things. Because China can undercut the prices of local industries by having shit conditions in their factories. Yes, that is part of the reason, but it is not the singular only reason. No. What I'm implying is that in order to manufacture these things and keep the prices the same, what the US government would have to do is say, here's a bunch of money, or here's a bunch of tax breaks. Keep your stuff here and pay American citizens, like, the wages that they're allowed to be paid. Because there are factories and stuff in America, and they do pay people, like, mostly fine wages or whatever. But then the problem is the product ends up being too expensive because of the wages of the U.S. citizen. Or because of the cost of materials in the U.S. or because of other things. So, like, even doing that doesn't shift. It doesn't give the workers more money. It gives the company money to not go out of country, basically. It's saving countries' profits. It's saving companies' profits, yeah. Which I don't necessarily think is a good thing. No, dude, I get that is understandable. Maybe there just needs to be a better name than global warming, right? The problem is a lot of factory jobs don't get paid, like, significantly more than, like a on-the-floor job at, like, a retail place. Like if you're working at like a factory, like most factories aren't in the US, most factory jobs like aren't that dangerous. And so it's like if you're working in a factory job, you're like moving a forklift around or like working in a big warehouse or whatever, like you're going to be getting paid pretty similarly to if you just like work at the floor in a grocery store or something. You know what I mean? It's not just that they don't want to work factory, it's that there are other jobs that are safer and easier that you can get paid similar amount for with like a low skill. You don't get the tariff hate. Tariffs are paid by the US citizens. Oh my God. Tariffs do not help US citizens. A tariff is not going to keep jobs in the US. They have never done this. They will not help local industries. You need to read about the efficacy of tariffs and how they've worked in the past. And who they punish. They have never historically worked at keeping local, like helping local industries. It's never happened. Ugh. Oops. Fuck, I took too many steps. Going into a battle. Yeah, but I think at this point, everyone knows that's not what they're doing. Like, do you know what I mean? Man, I just want one more full attempt on Kyogre. This is my last attempt for the day, no matter how it goes. Listen, I like talking about politics. I don't give a fuck what anybody else thinks. I like talking about this shit. I'm passionate about it. I think about it a lot. I don't think it's boring to people. I think that a lot of, well, I don't know. You're not American, so it's different. But like in America, it's not that politics are boring to people. It's that you like get people who, I would say a majority of Americans kind of fall into their political position based on who they grew up with, like what their parents believed. And you don't like think about that a lot. So it's like they view it as like a thing to like not discuss. Like they view politics as like a neutral thing. I don't know how to explain this, right? Like people view, and maybe at one point before I was alive, there was a point where politics was like a thing to discuss, and it was just like a serious conversation to have, and like people don't want just to see, but like the thing is, it's not normal anymore. Like, I don't really think I would be friends with someone who is like an active Republican voting for Trump, because that signifies to me that you're literally just like a lunatic. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, what the fuck? What do you mean? Like, I don't know, man. So it's like, so now I need to signify that I have... I mean, the truth is, I just like talking about it. I like having my, like, because people in here, there are people in here who are more to the left of me, and there's obviously some people in here who are clearly more to the right of me as well. And like, I like having my ideas challenged from both perspectives, right? I think that person in here earlier, Olav, was challenging my beliefs on Israel-Palestine, and I think that, and voting, and who you should be voting for, and I think that like, I take in their arguments, I listen to them, and I think, like, no, here's the defense of my belief, and, like, in the end, they really didn't end up defending their belief in any meaningful capacity, which means, okay, I've successfully defended what I thought was correct without having, like, a logical fallacy or without having, like, a problem in my belief against an opposing ideology. Obviously, it was softball because their opinion was stupid, but, like, I think that's a good thing to be able to defend myself against, with the same thing as FFF keeps saying a bunch of typical right-wing talking points and is incapable of effectively defending a lot of their positions as well. And so I think that's, like, an important thing for me to both be able to understand my own positions and why the things that I've come to the conclusions to are correct, and because I'm hoping that some people who maybe, even if I'm not changing FFF's or Olav's mind on things, other people hear what I'm saying, even though there's not a ton of you in here today. Other people hear what I'm saying, and they like, their mind may be swayed to be less insane or less incorrect, or, like, even think more critically about their own positions, right? I think those are all important things. What does WRT mean, Shao? I haven't heard this acronym before. With respect to it? Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's ultimately is my position. Is also defeatist. Like, I don't think you're going to get either party to stop funding, and I don't think that you're going to get... from the side of the US, I don't think you're going to get too much meaningful change in either respect, although I do think the Democratic Party is ever so marginally more supportive of Palestine than Donald Trump specifically is. And I think if you made it your single issue vote, okay, you chose the party with probably a slightly worse outcome for that area insofar as the US's foreign policy, and a worse outcome for the US people in general, right? This is not battle record, this is painting. Battle record is something that you... Battle record is something that you combine with painting, and you do it in Emerald. Yeah, I think there's a couple of people who, like, view single state as their solution, or they view the deletion of Israel as the solution, and I think those people are, like, I think they're delusional. I think you need to, like, accept the reality that it's there and, like, hope that there's a two-state solution that can be reached somehow, despite the insane government in Israel. In general, I don't love the idea of, like, a... Well, I don't know. Interesting. Because it's a Jewish state, but it's not like only Jewish people can vote there, right? Like, if you're a Palestinian person who lives in Israel, like, you have the right to vote and stuff. Like, there are Palestinians who are citizens of the country of Israel. And they're allowed to vote and stuff, but... It's like, okay, well then, how can a democracy Oh, that did not help. Like, how can a democracy... Oh, fuck! How can a democracy that lets... Like, if... Well, it's not just that. It's like, from my perspective, it's also like... okay, the goal is to make a country that is safe for Jewish people, because they have been persecuted in many countries before. Like, they were persecuted in Middle Eastern countries before Israel was formed. They were persecuted in Germany. They felt like they needed a place, like the Jewish people felt like they needed a country for Jewish people, or whatever the fuck, right? Okay, I understand that perspective. But then you also make it a democracy. But then it's like, how can in what is supposed to be a state for a specific people also be a democracy? Like, that also doesn't seem super right, you know what I mean? Yeah, Jewish people will never allow it to be. Yeah, I agree. No, I don't support ethno-states. Duh. I'm not stupid. I think that's a pretty charitable reading on how a lot of... Ugh. So annoyed. I'm getting horsed here. I mean, from everything I read, it does not seem like Jewish people had a great time. It doesn't seem like Jewish people had a great time in Arab states before Israel was created, but I don't know, maybe I read propaganda or something. Israel, nobody had a great time. Yeah, you're not wrong. The idea that a country sees the group, yeah. Well, I mean, like, most... Oh, it all comes back to England, doesn't it? All foreign policy problems ultimately come back to... Well, hold on. Is there necessarily different classes of citizens in Israel proper? You are not a different class of citizen. If you are treated worse if you are in the Palestinian territories. Yes, I'm not saying that's not true. But I am saying that you are in the actual like in the actual country itself. I don't believe they discriminate based on your fucking ethnic origin. No, I'm not making any defense of the Palestinian territories. I'm saying I don't think they do. Like, you can vote if you're a Palestinian. Or maybe I've been told the incorrect things. It's hard to find places to rent. Is that just racism or is that policy? I'll need to look more into that, but I was under the impression that that's not true. I'll have to look more into it. No, I'm talking about like Arab people who were born and live in Israel, not the territories. Like I understand people who live in the territories, like the stuff like that. Let's see. Because there's a huge population of Arabs in Israel. Wait, I thought a lot of the Orthodox Jews were not treated very well in Israel. Like, they fucking banned Yiddish. Like, Hasidic Jews, speak Yiddish. Like, Yiddish is a different language than Hebrew, and it was fucking banned in Israel for, like, decades. No, it is a different type of religion. Like, the Hasidic Jews, I don't think were treated very well. Like, they have a different... like, someone said Orthodox gets treated the best, and then regular Jews. I'm saying, like, Hasidic is a type of Orthodoxy that is not treated well. That is their... like, there are Orthodox people in America who, like, don't speak anything other than Yiddish. Today, about 21% of Israel's population is Arab, totaling about 2 million people. Wait, how many people live in Israel? 9.75 million. That is not that much, actually. There's way less people live there than I thought. I mean, I know it's not like a huge amount of land, but still. Okay, let's see. Today, nearly all Arab towns and cities have lower standards of living than Jewish, not just Palestinians. Okay, that's not good. The separation and socioeconomic disparity fuel intense debate. Yes, sir. I'm sure it would. We have that in America, too. Technically, you don't have redlining. Technically, you don't have formal Jim Crow type segregation. In practice, you do. Yep, this happened in America, too. I'm very familiar with this. My dad was from the last town in New Jersey that was doing redlining. They were doing redlining in, like, the fucking 80s, not letting Irish people or black people live there. Oh, I think my wife's calling me, probably. Hold on. It's muting time. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. This is the most politically engaged chat has been in a long time. Not one chatter has said, I don't want to hear about this politics shit. Call that a W where I'm from, brother. I can't believe this, bro. Alright, well, that's the end for me. Sucks we didn't get any other fucking attempts in, but I gotta go. Right. Thank you all for watching. I will be here probably on Tuesday. I'll have a stream. I don't think it's gonna be Kyogre. It'll probably be something else. So yeah, but thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time. Hopefully I'm back more consistent. All right, tell all your friends that I'm back. Bye.